Hi, my name is Darby Stapp, and I'm here with Pendergast-Kennedy and Rex Buck today to talk about cultural resources sensitivity training for the work that will be done on Rattlesnake Mountain at the CCCF construction project. Our presentation was developed in coordination with tribal representatives from the Perce tribe, the Confederated tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation, Yakama Nation, and the Wanapum. The reason we have this training is Rattlesnake Mountain is a sacred place to the Mid-Columbia tribes, and DOE, Department of Energy, has agreed to consolidate communication facilities on the ridge into one facility. So that will minimize visual impacts and reduce the footprints of the buildings, and then improve the general appearance and integrity of the ridge by having less up there. The goal is to remove the towers and buildings and debris and build the new facility with minimal damage to the existing landscape and the cultural resources that are up there. We're hoping to have the areas where construction will be and the areas to be cleaned up clearly identified, areas where there are sensitive resources clearly identified, and then we have this training so that the workers can understand why we're going to these measures. Rattlesnake Mountain is a sacred landform. Native Americans in the area have strong spiritual ties to the mountain they call Lalik. It's been an important place for Wanapum prophets, Washani prophets, different tribal religious leaders. Vision questing and important events have occurred on the mountain over the millennia. You can see here Hanford's site is sort of right in the heart of different tribes. The Wanapum live just upstream and used to live on Hanford area. The Yakama to the west, the Perce to the east, the Umatilla to the south, and other tribal representatives who are on the Caldwell Indian Reservation. Here we see a picture of the Hanford Reach and Rattlesnake Mountain. We're talking about the area from Priest Rapids Dam on down to the three rivers, the Tri-Cities where the Snake River and Yakama River join the Columbia. And the resources are considered so important that the President in 2000 designated this area as a national monument. This and the fact that it's federal land and that the resources are considered so important brings in a whole series of different federal laws, Department of Energy policies, executive orders, and just different procedures and things at Hanford, that measures that are taken to make sure that important resources are protected. What are cultural resources? Well, they're considered to be often archaeological materials and sites dating to prehistoric times and historic times and ethno-historic periods, located on the ground or buried beneath it. They can be natural resources, sacred objects, sacred sites that have importance to Indian people or other cultural groups. And there are also historic sites that are representative of the period for the last 200 years in this area. Here we see a picture looking from the north of the Hanford Reach, looking towards the Tri-Cities. Before, this would have portrayed the area around the 1920s, and we can see at the bottom Pump House and the White Bluffs and Gable Mountain, Rattlesnake Mountain, all along this stretch up and down the river were villages and places where people fished and hunt and camped, and generally a very important place throughout prehistory. The chronology at Hanford goes back 10,000, 12,000 years and extends through a couple different periods where the environment changed or different events occurred that are represented in the archaeological record. We usually talk about an archaic period from 8,000 years ago to 4,000 years ago when resources became more prevalent and a general boom in exploitation of different plants and animals and aggregation of people into villages. We talk about an ethnographic period, which is a period in our last couple hundred years when settlers came out here and made observations about the Indian people who were still living and thriving in the area. And then we have a modern Native American period from 1850s into the present, and the introduction of farmers into the area, and then the government with the Manhattan Project, and thereafter the Cold War, and then the environmental cleanup. These are some examples of cultural resources and artifacts. So here is a hunting site that was found along with hunting tools, and we have a number of fishing sites along the river, different tools, net sinkers, scrapers, knives. This is a picture of Horn Rapids, which is on the Yakama River. This is an important fishing site. And here we have people that were living there in the 20th century. 1924, the Pacific. This is a lady that is still alive that is portrayed in the picture. And the bottom picture shows tribal fishermen during the 1970s still fishing at the Horn Rapids. This is a picture showing Gable Mountain, another important sacred site in central Hanford. And the White Bluffs is another example of the type of cultural resources that is important to people but doesn't necessarily have artifacts associated with it. We have a number of historic sites from the farmers that moved in here to start with irrigated agriculture. Some of the buildings that still remain at Hanford that are considered cultural resources, and the government tries to protect them if they can. Archaeological remains of farms, and then we have the Hanford Plutonium Production Facility, which itself is also an important historic site. So in Hanford in general, we have sacred places, traditional use areas, cemeteries, former villages and camps, and historic ranches, farms, towns, army sites, and Hanford. And we should note that this stretch of river we're looking at here is the only undammed stretch of river in the Columbia drainage that remains. Everything else has been impacted by dams, and so that adds tremendously to the importance of the place. The only place where some of these archaeological sites exist, the only place where along the river that Indian people can come and visit their former villages and the cemeteries of their ancestors and resources that are available. I'm going to pass speaker to the microphone to Ellen Pendergast, and she's going to talk more specifically about La Leak.
My name is Ellen Pendergast-Kennedy, and I'm going to talk a little bit about La Leak, which is Rattlesnake Mountain, the place that you will be working on. And La Leak is the Sahaptin name for Rattlesnake Mountain, which means above water. And it is a pretty distinct feature on the landscape. It's about 3,000 feet tall, and from that viewpoint you can see pretty much for miles in many directions. The Leak is a traditional cultural property, which is a kind of cultural resource that can be considered significant to many people, to many communities. And it is a traditional cultural property that has been determined eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. And the National Register of Historic Places recognizes historic places, archaeological sites, and traditional cultural properties that are significant for historical purposes or cultural and traditional purposes. La Leak in itself is a traditional cultural property that is a mountain, but it also contains several archaeological sites and traditional plants that contribute to its overall significance. There's prehistoric archaeological sites, there's traditional plants, there are rock cairns at most places where perhaps fishing questions has occurred. It's also the location where ceremonies occur as well. This is just a shot of Rattlesnake Mountain in a view shed with a rock cairn in the foreground. This next image shows a picture of lithic material. Lithic scatters are common archaeological sites that you'll find on Rattlesnake Mountain. These are stone materials, typically the debris that's left behind from making stone tools. But we do find these kind of resources on Rattlesnake Mountain. It's evidence of people who were there making tools or procuring resources. We also have historic sites on Rattlesnake Mountain. These include such things as ranch sites, historic cisterns, building foundations. The CCCF project that everybody will be working on is located on the lake. The project is supposed to begin in July of 2009 and last through October of 2009. And in tandem with this project, the Department of Energy will also be removing old facilities and infrastructure from Rattlesnake Mountain, in part in recognition of the significance of Rattlesnake Mountain, as well as part of the Department of Energy's scope of cleaning up material that's no longer needed. This is a photograph of one of the DOE facilities that is leased out that they will be removing. It's a communication facility. And to go back to the combined community communications facility picture here, the concept here is to consolidate all of the existing communications facilities that are currently on Rattlesnake Mountain into this one facility. And the overall goal is to reduce the footprint on Rattlesnake Mountain. This here is a photograph showing one of the buildings that will be being removed. It's former infrastructure associated with Army occupation on Hanford. It's a pump house, and there's actually a pretty significant archaeological site there. You see the road that goes down. What's interesting about many of these buildings is that they too are also historic sites. This picture here shows the former Nike missile base, which will also be removed as part of this project. And these structures were constructed in the early 1950s and have a lot to do with the site security at Hanford. And again, as I mentioned, are also on the National Register of Historic Places. So as part of this project, in recognition of the significance of the lake as a sacred area and as an important cultural resource to the local community, the tribal community in particular, the Department of Energy and Energy Northwest have made commitments to assure that they minimize any impact to this resource. And in that commitment, they agreed to several things, which are listed here. One of the things that's pretty important is to minimize your impact to undisturbed areas by minimizing the number of vehicles that go up the mountain, keeping all vehicles and personnel on existing roadways. A porta potty will be provided at the job site. To make sure that during construction activities, noise is minimized, both human noise and machinery, while performing work on the mountain to the extent feasible. Because the activity is occurring on federal land, there are legal requirements and prohibitions against picking up any archaeological artifacts, any rocks, because there are rocks that could be associated with archaeological sites, or any kind of vegetation, because there's a lot of synthetic plants on Rattlesnake Mountain. And to be reminded that there are legal consequences. Again, because you're working in a sensitive area, to make sure that you clean up any garbage, and with the concept of leaving only footprints. And while you're working, to be vigilant and to report any offenders in terms of picking up artifacts and that sort of thing. If you're not sure about what you're doing and have questions, make sure you stop work and ask first. And of course, to keep communication open between you and your supervisor, and to communicate with Energy Northwest and DOE about to make sure that we avoid unintended impacts. So what do you need to be worried about? So as you're working on the mountain, try to stay in defined work areas. If you do find any unexpected artifacts or materials that appear to be old, please immediately stop work and contact your supervisor, and then your supervisor will make sure that they contact Energy Northwest, who will then contact the Department of Energy. There are also several archaeological sites on the ridgeline where you'll be working, and these have all been buffered and flagged off with buckets and PVC piping and flagging tape to make sure that your vehicles and personnel avoid those sites. We also wish that you minimize your own impacts and be conscious of where you are. And there will also be some archaeologists and or tribal members who might be monitoring the construction activities, and just work with them and we'll work with you. And the bottom line is to remember that you're working in a sacred place and that it is a very sacred place to the tribes, and to just be cognizant of that. And in closing, we'd like to have Rex Buck for Wanapum at Priest Rapids say a few words about this area.
My name is Rex Buck, and I live at Priest Rapids, and today I'm here to help you understand how important the work that you're doing is, that it means a lot to the tribes to see you take care of things that the tribes have been wanting to take care of for a long time. But this mountain here, along with the other significant places, these ones here hold high significance to the tribal people for the resources that are here, our foods, our medicines, and also takes care of us spiritually. And it's been that way in the past for hundreds and thousands of years that people have taken care of this place, and this place has taken care of our people. And as you think about that today, because of the activities that have taken place, there was no access to this place here, but yet all the things that were told orally and traditionally still made us aware of this place. And when we came back, we still recognize this place because our people relate in words, just like if we were there in detail, everything that's here, not only where to get our foods, but to also know how the wind, even the wind is important, the wind that you're going to encounter on top of this mountain. And as you look around, the view shapes, those are all sacred and important. And as we came up here, sometimes they left things up here in different places. So be aware that you might find something, and let your supervisor know, so that way it can be dealt with in a good way. And then as we take care of these things, and you help us, and that'll be good. And the present use is getting to be better. Our people are beginning to come back and use this area for what it should be used for. And as we go to the future, and we eventually want to get all of these things off of the mountain, but yet this is one step toward doing that. So as you are moving around here and doing your work, recognize that our people have never left this area. We've been here for untold generations and time immemorial. So remember that as you walk on this land here, as you do the work that you have to do. Some of the other resources that you might not be aware of are things that we might not be able to talk about to help you understand, but expand your mind and open yourself to realize that these things we still practice today. They haven't gone away. They're still here with us. And be respectful of this land because it's our home. We try to keep it the way the Creator made it and how we have to take care of it. And I believe that each one that is here, if we went to your home, we would be very respectful of your home. We would be very cautious of what we did, and we would never take nothing that didn't belong to us or was for us. And there's things up here that belong to us, and we want them left in place and taken care of, so that way our future generations might have a good understanding that things aren't displaced or removed where they should be, and the legends and the stories and the teachings will be understood like they're supposed to be. And these are the things that our people have done for a long time to try to work with you, the Department of Energy, or in the past the Manhattan Project, the Army, as they came in to protect the United States of America. And when they protected that, they protected these things here today for us too. So we're in this together, and that's how we have to go forward. This is what the elders said. So I hope you understand and you all realize this little presentation that we have here, that if you have a question that you might not understand, ask your superior, and we can come up and talk to you more if we need to. Not only myself, but there's others, and we can let you know if you want to learn some more. We're always willing to try to help each one to understand what comes to this piece of land here. So I'm thankful for this little time to be with Darby and Ellen today to help along with the presentation, and that's all really I have to say today. And thank you for your time and your efforts to understand these things. Thank you. Good enough?